The new Battlefront season unsurprisingly brought us another Tier 10 premium in the season pass. This time around, however, it's at the end of the 2000 gold pass at stage 100. So most people are going to take a few weeks to obtain it. But what is the 114 SP2? It's a Chinese Tier 10 tank destroyer with a 152mm gun and a fully rotatable turret. Let's dive into its stats and make a few comparisons. I have a selection of tank destroyers and one heavy tank at tier 10 I want to compare with, and I'll explain why for each one. First one's obvious, as this is a Chinese tank destroyer, we will include the WZ-113G FT in our comparisons just to see how the OG Chinese TD compares to its newest brother, despite them being quite different as you'll see. The rest are Russians. We have the Object 2685, since it's what I feel will be the closest comparison in terms of playstyle and audience, since both of these tanks are tier 10 premiums that were and are easily earnable, and they both have fully rotatable turrets. The 2684 is here because of its gun, which is also a 152mm with 650 alpha to compare with, which goes the same for why the Object 705A is in this comparison. It's the only heavy tank with a 152mm 650 alpha gun as well, so we'll see how this kind of gun differs between the classes. The last tank comparison here might be unnecessary, but I feel it's worth mentioning. The Object 2684 has been lacking in the buffs department, and the last time they buffed the 268, they went all out, leaving the version 4 behind. So the 268 is here to provide a showcase as to why you rarely see 2684s, as well as overshadowing the Tech Tree Chinese Tank Destroyer 2 in terms of its playstyle, so this one's a twofer. We'll start with that gun. All tanks in this comparison have the same caliber of 152mm, so whatever this thing can overmatch, so can they. So no advantage there. But with the differences of alpha, they obviously will differ most in their reloads, right? The base reloads are 14.6 seconds on the 114 SP2 with 650 alpha, 19.5 seconds on the WZ-113 GFT with 850 alpha, 18.5 seconds on the 2685 with 850 alpha, 17.3 seconds on the 2684 with 650 alpha, 17.5 seconds on the Object 705A with 650 alpha, and 16 seconds on the 268 with 850 alpha. So you can see that the new 114 SP2 has the quickest reload, and the tank with the next best reload is the 268 with 200 more alpha. In the same order, these reloads give these tanks DPM values of 2672, 2618, 2754, 2256, 2230, and a whopping 3188. So interestingly enough, the 268 has the most DPM, and the other Russian 850 alpha tank is the second best. The Tech Tree Chinese tank comes close to this new one, and the 2684 is close to the heavy tank's DPM. The 114 has the quickest aim time at 2.3, and the best accuracy at 0.32, but notice that 0.33 by the 268, which comes very close. What rounds are we firing though? Well, every tank here has AP standard, but the 114 has the fastest AP round. In terms of pen, however, it is the lowest of the tank destroyers at 273, only beating out the 705A, but that's to be expected from the difference in class identity. This tank differs from the rest in its premium round, however, being the only one not to shoot heat, but instead APCR, meaning it yet again shoots the fastest round, but has the lowest pen of the tank destroyers at 329, only beating out the 705A, again due to class identity. It should also be mentioned that it's the lowest penning APCR round of all tank destroyers at tier 10 that also have APCR premium. The Badger and 263 having one pen better at 330, the Sturv having 350, the Waffles 12 8cm gun having 354, and the E3 and E4 both having 375 pen. Last gun stat to mention is its gun depression, which is a very respectable and playable 7 degrees, which beats out all the tanks in this comparison. Does that mean this thing can play hold down better than those tanks? Well, not necessarily. Let's take a look at its armor now. As you can see, its thickest plate isn't all that thick, and it's a decently big tank. If you try to side scrape with its 75mm of side armor behind the tracks, You'll just make it easier for them to hit your cut corners on the upper portion of your hull, but there is a hollow edge with an angled portion in there. They could just pen your turret too, though. There are some nice angles on the upper plate that might get some bounces from lower tiers or lower caliber guns, but do not rely on the armor all too much, especially with AVREs on the field that will eat you up if spotted. Really, the majority of any block damage I've gotten with this tank came from auto ricochet angles or lucky track absorptions. So even though you can use the 7 degrees to play in some positions that the other tanks here might not be able to play in, you don't have the armor to back it up with. But the 7 degrees does make peeking ridges a lot easier in comparison. Along with armor, we have HP values, where the 114 SP2 has 2000, which only beats out the 2685 with its 1900. It matches the 2684's 2000, and is beat by the WZ and 268's 2100 for the tank destroyers. Okay, so this tank has fairly good DPM, but not better than the 268 or even the other free tank most players have, like the 2685. Not to mention, both of those tanks have better and more reliable armor than this one. Surely this thing beats them in speed, maneuverability, and camo, right? Well, let's start with that speed and maneuverability. While it is faster than the WZ, 2684, and 705A in terms of top speed at 45, it is slower than the 268 and 2685 at 48. With the horsepower, it will feel slightly better at accelerating and climbing hills than the 2685 with its better power to weight ratio, but still falls flat of the 268 power to weight ratio only slightly. A bit upsetting since we just looked at the armor profile of this vehicle and it's got way less armor to haul around than these two tanks. The tank traverse speed is a good 30 degrees a second, which is better than the WZ, 2684, and 705A, but matches the 268 and 2685. The turret traverse, I had noticed, was slow during gameplay, and it is, at 18, which is worse than the 2685's 22. Okay, so maybe it's got better camo. Well, it's certainly better than the heavy for obvious reasons, but it matches the 2684 in still camo and is still beat out by the 268 and 2685 by 17 and 10 meters respectively. It won't best them with a bigger gap between its own view range and camo either, because all of these tanks have 390 meters base view range besides the 2684, which is the tank it matched its camo with. So for that comparison directly, the 114 will outspot enemy tanks farther out than the 2684 by itself due to the view range differences there. So what does this all mean for the new 114 SP2 then? Well, it depends on what you're looking for. Yes, the 268 and 2685 beat it in camo, DPM, alpha, penetration values, armor, speed, and maneuverability. This thing differs in aspects that might appeal to more people than those tanks, like having more gun depression, APCR premium with faster rounds, and a turret unlike that 268, which is a big factor to take in. Overall, though, I wouldn't change anything on the tank itself, more so changes to other overtuned tanks first. Should we start a scoring system? Perhaps. I would place it in A tier if we're tiering things. If I had to give it a star rating, a solid 4.5 out of 5 stars. I really enjoy this tank and plan on continuing to play it in the future. For the wider audience, though, will this replace the 2685? Most definitely not, which isn't a bad thing. 2023 has been a wild year for Tier 10 premiums and Tier 10 matchmaking, so this one not being ball-bustingly broken puts a smile on my face and gives me a little bit of hope. It's definitely worth the 2000 gold and the grind. Before I show you my Ace Mastery gameplay, let's go over my loadout. I have a 9-skill crew with the essential 5 perks I put on everything. 6th Sense, Born Leader, Rapid Loading, Steady Aim, and Situational Awareness. My other 4 perks are Snapshot, Camo Expertise, Silent Driving, and Muffled Shot. You could swap out Muffled Shot for Run and Gun, but even without vert stabs as it is a tank destroyer and Run and Gun, I was hitting many shots on the move. If you still aren't a Muffled Shot kind of guy, I would recommend Supply Conservation to get your food back quicker. Speaking of food, I am running food as well as a premium repair kit and a standard med kit. You obviously can run a premium med kit, but it's just something I do to save a little bit of silver. Also to mention, you could run fuel here too. If you're comfortable with no crew protections, The fuel will bump up your horsepower and turret traverse speeds if you feel the need to. But I didn't. But I might try that in the future, perhaps, now that I think about it. Equipment wise, loader and vents are an easy choice for me, and I was deciding between optics and a camo net, and ultimately went with a camo net since this thing has great camo, and the gain in meters was more with the net. Full APCR ammo loadout, of course. I could have loaded some HE here, but Cone still hasn't learned how to press the A button. And I'm not using an ammo swapper, so. Here's a look at all the affected stats if you're interested in what's possible, and let's get into the gameplay. I've had many games of 6,000 damage or higher, and 2 games with 8,000 damage, but no aces in those. This was my second ace, first being a 5 kill 5,500 damage game, but this one is the more impressive one, as you'll see. And yes, it happened on stream and I wasn't recording, a typical thing here on the channel if you're regular, but here we are in the replay system, so bear with me. It is a standard battle on El Alamein, which is one of my favorite maps in the game. We spawned in the bottom right, and I head to the bottom left. I'm going to sit in one position for the majority of this game, you'll see, and it's a very strong position that I like to go to. I decided to go there with this tank because I had the camo to kind of sit there and not get blown up. Yes, I have no armor, and I only have 7 degrees of gun depression, but I wanted to see if I could make it work. I usually go here with mediums, and with mediums with good gun depression, and it works very well. But before we head on over there, we're going to move to the left of this little hill here to get some shots on someone who's attacking my teammate who pushed a little too far forward. And there we go. First shot of the game, 708 damage. So a nice 58 damage high roll. Our teammate does die, so he did get punished, but I do take out the leopard 1. So a little trade there, I suppose. Now I'm going to head into my position. This rock right here, if the enemy team doesn't push up on this ridge, which is usually where you would think a fight would happen, I like to sit on the right side of this rock. What this does is it gives me view range over this portion of the map that I'm currently looking at. If I back up here, or even if I go forward in front of the rock, if I extend enough, I can get shots on the people in the hills. The shot you saw coming from the far hill, I can get a shot here if I go to the left of the rock, but they're out of my render just a bit. But right there, you can see I get a shot for sure caught out in the open and gets me a free shot in the middle of the map. Ignore my camo and view range circles on the minimap, by the way. Those don't look accurate from actual gameplay differences. But you can see, I could see the tortoise there for a second, but he went out of render and unspotted. So I would have to push forward around this rock a little bit. And nothing's really around this corner. See, I'm not spotted by that leopard until I fire, showing you that the camo circle is inaccurate. But this is what I mean by this position being very strong. I get shots on the left, I get shots in the middle, and as you can see here, I get another shot on the Charfouture on the right side of the map, since most of my team didn't go over there. If I'm not mistaken by now, no, there's still more alive. The mini-map, again, with the replay system's not showing everybody alive, it doesn't look like, but the Death Star will be the only tank alive over there for quite a bit. I did take out the Charfouture, and I have the Death Star's back if anything pushes him. Missed a shot on the Tortoise's cupola there, but no big deal. Yeah, if the enemy here on the left pokes the ridge, I can shoot them. If the Tortoise gets spotted and I'm close enough, I can shoot him. If anything's in the middle, especially on that ridge in the middle that they have control over immediately, I could shoot them on there. I could shoot anybody attacking my Death Star. I could bounce around off the T-62A. But he's gonna rotate weirdly. Instead of going up and over the hill and out of danger, he kind of comes back. So here I am, gonna make sure I hit this one this time. There it is. Very bouncy sniper view, but you can see what's going on. Now it's 9-11, and a majority of my team is over on the left, oddly poking up on the map as they get spotted, it seems. But I do have that Death Star still over there, and I do still have his back against anything that might come around the corners. But they're kind of scared. I mean, it is a Death Star. he, they might understand that he has cover from further out on the map and artillery, so kind of not poking that. But the Type 5 does, and I get a shot into him, and he's going to push out and let me get more shots into him. Already does hurt him a bit, and so does someone else, so I don't get too much off of him, but I did get something off of him. Now a Nemesis, sorry, not the Nemesis, the E75 pokes up in the middle of the map. Got ahead of myself. A Nemesis will pop up there, spoilers. There it is. So the E75 is now driving out, and I wonder, do I have the gun depression to poke this ridge? And I don't. I do not. I have to really drive far forward and kind of lean off of the cliff edge if I wanted to hit that shot. But he's getting blown up. I believe this is the only spot that I got some spotting damage in, unless my assisted was tracking. I can't exactly remember, but the E75 is gone now, and we know where a Nemesis is. My Death Star is still alive as well, so I kind of don't want to leave this position yet, just in case he gets pushed by more tanks, and since we know where the Nemesis is. But we have a Chisel, who is in our platoon, and is our dear friend Hippo, moving to the middle of the map now. And I sort of make the decision that the left side's kind of at a stalemate. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to push into a more aggressive position to hopefully spot the Tortoise myself, perhaps, and get some shots onto him, or spot anything in the middle of the map and help deal with them. Here I am, getting a shot on the Nemesis, just waiting for him to give me that shot. I would back up a little bit more. There you go. Free, baby. And now I check my left because I don't want to get rushed, and just in case they do rush me, I kind of turn my turret so it's a little bit quicker. Like I said earlier, fuel, if you didn't know, passively gives you top speed and turret rotation. And I did check it just a second ago, and with fuel on this tank, your top speed gets to 47 point something. Here's a Death Star who luckily misses me and I catch on fire. So that was a good bit of damage there. He did have a fire extinguisher, it looked like. And the 257 pokes out. Didn't expect that. That's the first shot I took in the game. And now I say to my platoon mate, it's 7-6. You should probably get rid of this Nemesis, right? I was gonna run out into the open and try and get away from this position now that the 257 was freely able to do that, and there's a Death Star there. Two people poking around a corner from different elevations and different points on the map, not something I want to fight. So, instead of taking on the 1v2, we'll take on the 2v1. And I do check my left here just in case the Death Star crossed out in the open and didn't get spotted by my heavy tank down there. But luckily, that's not an issue. But as I was saying, fuel gets your top speed of 47 point something, and your turret rotation close to 22. So fuel really does sort of even this thing out in speed and maneuverability closer to the 2685. But you still have all those other downsides. Here I get a nice tracking blow. And I also finish it off. Pop. And now at this point, I think I'm at 8,000 damage. And I say to Hippo, I could get a 10k game here. So, we know the Tortoise is full health. He hasn't been shot all game. We know there's a shit barn and a Death Star over here. And a 257. And since RD 2.0 is a thing, I can get a full penning or full alpha shot into him. Sure enough, I do. And that's when I noticed the Death Star. There's the shit barn shot, who's now running past the ridge. Well, I might not get a shot on because of the ridge, but I decide to peek and get it anyway. Leave him on 32 and Hippo finishes him off. And now we have this full health Tortoise to farm. Now, cupolas have been buffed, but when we're up this close in his face, it's kind of hard not to panic. I do check for the Death Star to see if he's looking in my direction, and he's not. Already hits him a bit. I get another cupola shot into him. That's my second shots of damage against me in the game. That's fine, because as you'll see here at the end, we ended up doing a good amount of damage. This is my newest, highest World War II damage game. 11.6 thousand damage, 4 kills, 685 assisted, 26,000 silver made, ace tanker, BIA, sniper, Confederate, high cal, all that jazz. No bots. Had to make sure there was no bots on this leaderboard, otherwise that would have been a little bit disappointing. There you have it, my new highest damage record game in World War II in the new 114 SP2. Like I said earlier, I really do enjoy this tank, and I hope more people do as well, but I hope you enjoyed this review. I plan on doing more of these in the future. Next one's most likely going to be that American Double Barrel Tier 8 Premium that we're going to get sometime this season. And with that, take care.